I wrote The Wondrous Emerge for a variety of reasons. One, the catalyst event was that I'm a body electrician, and I love Body Electric, and I've done many of their programs. But at one of the programs, I believe it was Colin Brown who adored, as you know, James Broughton, and he said, I want to read this poem. And we were all assembled around a swimming pool, and it was Wondrous Emerge, and I just I loved it, and somehow it went somewhere in me. I forgot about it. Years went by, and then a commission from a string quartet came along, and I remembered the poem, and so I said to the commissioners, "Can I write something for a string quartet plus a narrator singer?" And they agreed. So I hit on the idea of setting the poem for a narrator who, at a certain crucial moment, sings "Wondrous the Merge," because that phrase is kind of an incantation throughout the poem. So I thought that would be wonderful sung, but the rest of it spoken. And it also spoke to me. It's such a archetypal coming out poem that I really wanted to do that. Also, I've written music for a long time, and my early stage was revolved around a lot around James Joyce, and I went into Lewis Carroll. And then through a series of things, I had personal crashes in my life. I became an alcoholic. I got into recovery. And in the recovery part of my life, and did a lot of therapy, I wanted to celebrate being gay. And there is not much in classical music. Very little music celebrates any sexuality, let alone gay. Everything is vaguely erotic, but never explicitly sexual or pornographic or dirty. There's no such thing in classical music. So, as is my way often to write a piece, I have to be inspired by a text. And so when I wanted to do this, celebrate being gay, I mean, who else would be better a poet than James Broughton? So I remembered the experience at Body Electric and found the poem and began to set it. What I love about the poem is that it is a story of a older gay man coming out. It's not my story, but it's just so touching and so also unexpected. It's not the way you normally come out. A young man doesn't seduce an old professor. It's always the other way around, and it just appealed to me. And also the quirkiness of the language, and the sexiness of it, the directness. That very much fell in line with the kind of turn I wanted to take in my own writing to create a body of gay-oriented music that couldn't. There it sits, whether you like it or not. This will now exist from where there was nothing. Well, it's an interesting tale for me around the premiere of the piece, which was given at something called the Great Lakes Festival outside of Chicago. They knew that I had told them that it was a gay text, which they said was perfectly all right to do. I thought I should ask. And so we prepared it, and we had a wonderful singer ready to do it. And then somehow the program people wanted the actual text so that they could put it in the program. So when they got that, all hell broke loose, and they said we can't perform a piece that has such a text. It's so. They never said what was wrong with the text. They knew they couldn't say it was gay. That was the thing they couldn't say. So they said there were inappropriate words in it because children will be at the concert. And so I read the poem, and actually there's nothing so-called dirty about it. There are no dirty words, but there was, I think James says something about gallons of, we drank. Yes, the line that they protested to was, drank semen and laughter and sweat. The use of the word semen. They decided to hang their prohibition to, although I'm sure it was a gay poem. And also it's very uncomfortable because it's an established, married, heterosexual man, professor, which anyone could identify with probably in that audience, being seduced by sexuality, a young man and a gay young man. I mean, it totally destroys the social fabric of that world. So, and it turned out after this all happened, that the concert series itself was sponsored by 3 different churches, so that they had the final word. And because I couldn't understand why they would care so much. A normal concert promoter doesn't care about something so small, but the churches really cared. So we did the piece without the narration, but with the sung "Wondrous Emerge" thing. So it was not, and somehow the press got wind of it as censorship. And so I was delighted to see there were a lot of stories about how censorship is alive and well in America in 2004 or whatever this was. So I got my revenge. So it was actually not premiered until just a few years ago. Well, it proves the way I met Joel Singer proves the existence of God, I think, or the profound coincidence. I had been working here in Westbeth in my studio where you are now, on the piece. Had just finished it, and so went with my boyfriend at the time. Went to the Corner diner, and there across, literally next to me, was Joel Singer and his then partner Tobias Schneebaum. And I had never met them, but I knew Tobias. So Tobias said, "David, this is Joel Singer." And I said, "Hi, how are you?" And then suddenly I said to him, "Are you the Joel Singer in the Broughton poem? Could that be?" And he said, "Yes." So on the day I finished the poem about Joel Singer and James Broughton, I met him. It was just an incredible coincidence. So we became friends. He lived in my building, our building, and so that was a wonderful beginning of a friendship. Well, I got details. Of course, I basically had set the piece, but I wanted, is this all true? And that's what I was interested in. How much of this is true? Is it really? Did you seduce this older gentleman? And what was it like? And did you really live on Portrero or whatever it was? And so that was fun to have the reality of it. Often, when I set poetry, it's at art colonies. I love to go to art colonies like MacDowell Colony or Rialto, and I meet these poets and I like them, and then I get interested in their poetry. So it has like a context of I like this person and this is how they think, this is how they write. It makes a big difference. So in a sense, Colin Brown reading James's work was like James reading it to me, because he was so filled with enthusiasm and had the direct line to James. Lived where James lived, in Port Townsend, and that I felt like I had a real connection, although I unfortunately never met James. It was all true. Joel said, it's all true what James wrote. I knew about him because I was always looking for poetry, and so I cruised his poetry. Somehow I didn't know this poem. Somehow I missed this poem. And of course we shadowed each other enough. We both grew up in Marin County for part of the time. I grew up in San Anselmo, he in Novato and I think Mill Valley. And San Francisco, certainly I was near there till I graduated from college. I knew Lou Harrison slightly. We met for dinner once. But I never got to James. I like that it's explicitly sexual, explicitly gay, and very imaginative, odd words, and I like the repetitive, especially in Wonder Submerged, the way things repeat. It makes it very musical for me. You get to have then, suddenly, if you say a phrase over and over again, it's perfect for music, because music, you want to do that anyway. Things get repeated like in operas or in masses. Amen, amen, Kyrie eleison, eleison, it gets repeated. So Wonder Submerged is, it was just made for music, I felt. The premiere was controversial only in the sense that it didn't happen properly. It was censored. They didn't really review it and it wasn't a proper presentation of the piece. It was, however, premiered 2 or 3 years ago in New York City at a place called Symphony Space, and a wonderful baritone named Rob Frankenbury did the narration and sang it and acted it, kind of had a chair and moved around. He did a wonderful job. And I have a recording of it, finally. I wanted very much to have a recording of it. But the concert itself was not reviewed. It's like saying, what do you like about your third child? I like it because it's mine. I made it my piece, when I bent James's to my will, but it comes out seeming like James. I ingested that poem, and I didn't set it in a traditional way. I mean, most of it goes the way it was written, but then I make a whole to-do around Wonder Submerged. I make an aria around those few words, so that distorts it a little bit, but makes it serve a musical end. And I think the spirit of the piece I wrote celebrates the joy the joy of coming out, the joy of meeting someone, and I think any gay man has that. Whatever age you come out, it's wonderful when you meet someone and have an epiphany. And I'm on my fifth husband. Oh, I've just divorced my fifth husband, but so I've had 5 epiphanies at the very least. I love that term, big joy. I don't really know. Did he have a big dick? But I'll cry.
Good.
Okay.
I don't know why. Whenever I cry hearing a poem, I always said it. I don't think I cried when I first heard this, but subsequently. I can't do it. I don't know why. Well, maybe I will, but not. I don't know why it touches me. I should have more presence of mind.
James used to cry all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Hard to do.
Do you have a Kleenex?
Why am I crying? I will.
And maybe you can just talk about that. Talk about how reading the poem makes you cry, even if you can't read the poem right now. We'd love to hear about it.
That's good. This is all Body Electric's fault. It's just I felt my eye fell across the words yes, yes, yes. That's repeating. Yes, I will. I do. Yes, and it's so nice to be happy and connected to my feelings. I spent a lot of years putting my feelings into music, I think, but everything else was kind of walled off. I don't think I felt a lot, but in later years, it's things seem to merge, and the way I feel comes out in all kind of places. And I like crying. You never lose when you cry, but it's embarrassing. I never cried in an interview before. But this seems more. This interview seems more personal, and I have a life I love, and I do a lot of weird things, like James. I do a lot of weird things, and I feel basically shame-free, which is very nice. I think I had a lot of shame for a long time. We're both of, well, he's longer than I am, of that generation that went from no liberation whatsoever, completely hidden, to quite free. It's quite a thing to live through that. And AIDS, of course. I survived that. Miraculously. The poem makes me think of unalloyed joy, I think. Just unalloyed joy. After a lot of struggle, the whole coming out after being, I can't imagine what it would have been like to be being torn out of a marriage, a dreary teaching job, and just to go with a student. I mean, that took so much courage and bravery. unimaginable. So what? So probably every action has an opposite and equal reaction. The joy from that must have been incredible. And I sense some of that in Wondrous Emerge, or all of it in that. So it came at a time in my life when I was celebrating that, which I never would have done before. I've always been out, i.e., the way my close friends knew I was gay, but I never said it in an interview. I never did anything like that. I mean, I was out in the classical way. Like it's so amazing in American music. The greatest composers have all been gay. When you started with Virgil Thompson, Aaron Copland, Leonard Bernstein, Stephen Sondheim. It's incredible, but it's never celebrated. It's, more or less people know, but no one says anything about it. And it's just an amazing fact. And so in my own personal life, I just like to celebrate. I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay. And James did the same thing. Push it in people's face and it becomes normalized. No, he was not. He was in Bali. The world's best excuse. I'm in Bali. But I gave him a tape, and he's heard it, and he likes it. I didn't think it was settable in a normal way. I didn't think you could sing that poem. Some things you can sing. So I felt, and I've rarely set a piece, made it for narrator. I've always had it sung, but I wanted to, something about the way the words go, I wanted it to be said. I thought sung would actually obscure too much of it. Because when you sing, you kind of give up the words. They're hard to hear. But I wanted all those words to be really clear, because it was a lot of it my story as well. Well, having only heard it once, the effect of, after all that talking and telling the story, to have it break into an aria that's very, very beautiful, is just happiness. It's it does have that feeling of unalloyed, just heavenly moment. It feels like a heavenly moment. But of course I'm prejudiced. I'm the composer. Wondrous the merge of soulmates, the surprises of recognition. Wondrous the flowerings of renewal, wondrous the wings of the air, clapping their happy approval. So the ecstasy around the one word, wondrous, grabbed me. That never happens in the rest of the poem. It's just an unalloyed joy there. And it's what everyone wants. And it's something I identified with. I've had a checkered career. I was supported early and had big successes early in my career. As a neo-romantic, I'm sort of the father of neo-romanticism, so bringing back tonality after a period of very atonal, I would say arid music. So I suddenly decided you could write tonally, that it was okay to do. So that was, now many years have passed, and it's sort of accepted. People do this, and I'm not a novelty or a shock anymore. But now what I find is when I give lectures or stuff to talk about the gay side, or wanting to create a gay music, talking about my alcoholism, all of this stuff, I insist on bringing up, because I want to be real, and it's not what the public wants to hear often, and but I make it a part of myself. I don't want to have any. It's very important, I think, not to have any secrets. I don't want to have a lot of secrets. I don't want to project an image of something that's not true, and I get a lot of lightness because I do that. In reviews, I get not personally. They don't ever do that, but in reviews, I get extremely hostile, or often very good one. But it's usually very extreme. It goes back, and they won't say they don't like it because it's too queer or too. But there's always this. Oh, do we have to have this? And I just critics are notoriously. I don't know what you'd call it, thin-skinned, even though there's a lot of gay critics. I remember I did a piece with John Kelly, a wonderful baritone. It was a great day in New York. It was a whole concert series, and John was going to sing some of my songs. And so for one, they were gay poems, a poem of Paul Monette, but but this was New York, there shouldn't be any problem. But one of the songs I had him lie down and sing was about someone who's in a grave, and so he did that. And so a friend of mine, the critics were sitting together. So one critic who was straight actually loved it. So he was sitting next to another critic who said he shouldn't be allowed to do such things. So that was very clearly. I had crossed some line of propriety just by, I don't know what, the setting of the song or the poem, or having somebody actually lie down and sing. I mean, who knows? And I deserve the, in a way, the negativity, because I am trying to do something that has been kept hidden for so long. I'm outing classical music in a certain kind of way, by setting all this gay stuff and making it. I use all my skill to do that, and it's not like I'm nobody doing this in the backwoods, and so it gets a little attention, and there it is. So that amuses me, and I feel like it's a very interesting and necessary legacy for me to do. I'm the right one to do it. Yeah, I could have, but I just, like a plant, or like James, anyone, you just evolve the way you evolve. I didn't resist the evolution. I think that's where the damage comes in. I kind of went with it, and when I got into recovery, I thought, oh my God, it's all over. And I'm trading. I thought that was very interesting to me. I thought, okay, I'm sober now. My life is a bit more together, but the price is I'm never going to have those highs again. Maybe I'll never write all that music again. It'll be somehow more. And I thought that was a trade-off, and I said, okay, fair enough. And then I went to Body Electric, and that completely changed me. That opened me up, and I was at Yaddo Art Colony before I went to my first week at Wildwood. So I was in a very staid, beautiful community. I was familiar with working on a piece. I went to Body Electric for a week, and a lot happened. The whole thing, and I fell in love, and I got mad, and I cried, and I came back to Yaddo. It was like suddenly I'm back there, and I missed it. And so I had two poems that had been written just by people in the week thing, just kind of spontaneous poetry that they loved it. So I set the two poems, and I set them very quickly, and I didn't realize, but this was the first poetry other than Lewis Carroll that I had said in 20 years. So I had broken the mold, and then I told people there, because I was stuck there in Yaddo, in a sense, without all this. I'd been so high on the sexuality, so I said I loved it, and then some woman said, "Well, I just did a new translation of the Song of Songs. I put the sex back in, and let me see it." And then I set some of her poetry, and I started setting all this poetry twice as fast as I had set previously in my life. And I couldn't believe, why is this going so fast? And it stayed. This whole thing of connecting eros to art felt like it actually worked. Something about it. So I would go back to Body Electric every year, at least, for another seminar, and that was in 1995. And to this day, I somehow lost self-consciousness about composing. It had become easier and more direct, and then more gay. That's how I came out as a composer, directly because of my first Body Electric experience. Even though I hadn't been that closeted, but still it broke a mold that I'm grateful for. I've read that, yes. I breathe you, I contain you, I propel you. I am your opening and closing. I am your rising and falling. I am your thrust and surrender. I stiffen you, I melt you, I energize, I quicken your humor and heartache. I set the spade to your fluid. I stir your mixable blessing. This is the kind of poem I like. It's a litany. It's a litany poem. I this, I that, I that. Perfect for music, for my music. This is it. This is it. This is it, and I am it, and you are it, and so is that, and he is it, and she is it, and it is it, and that is that. Oh, it is this, and oh, it is this, and it is thus, and it is them, and it is us, and it is now, and here it is, and here we are, and so this is it.
Beautiful. You want to do number 2?
Sure.
Number 2, he read the day he died. He recited over and over. He didn't read it. This is it, number 2.
This is it. This is really it. This is all there is, and it's perfect as it is. There's nowhere to go but here. There's nothing here but now. There's nothing now but this, and this is it, and this is really it, and this is all there is, and it's perfect as it is. That's...
Thanks.
Shouldn't have told me
Anything,
that it was his deathbed poem. James Broughton was a wild man. James Broughton was a sexy man. James Broughton was a hero. Big joy.